Hello guys, this is Grace and welcome to Double Page Layout Series video number 2. And again, I am working with a bunch of photos that are printed at 3x4 size, 3 pattern papers, and they're all coordinated. They're from the nautical line of Fancy Pants. And then my scrapbook page base is 2 white cardstock and then an inspiration sketch from Scrapbook Generation. So if this is your first time watching the series, this is actually the second one. I explain a little bit more about what the series is about in the first one, and I will make sure that to link that up in the description below if you want to check that out. But basically, I am going to be using 3 pattern papers and trying to maximize those papers to make my layout, and then using a Scrapbook Generation sketch as my inspiration. So it's not necessarily that I will follow the sketch to a T, because I print my pictures first before I pick papers and all that stuff, and so I will modify this inspiration to fit the existing page that I have. So first of all, I'm going to grab some of this striped paper. I noticed this layout, or this series, is based off of the formula that Scrapbook Generation creates for their kits. They have a kit club and I highly recommend it. It's wonderful, super great. But anyways, I noticed that they use 3 pattern papers and then the white cardstock and then their sketch. And it seems like whenever I create from with their kits, that I maximize the papers really well and I don't have a lot of scraps. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted to really focus on with making this double page layout, is that not be left with a ton of paper, because I do have a lot of scraps. I always have a lot of scraps, but it seems like they're just one of those items in my scraps stash, or in my scrap room, that it never runs out. So I kind of want to tame it, and that this is one way that I could do that. So I am figuring that I wanted to mat this one 3x4 photo as well as my journaling block. The journaling block has been pre-printed, and I try to do that as much as I can because it makes my scrapbooking efficient. I grab all of the journaling that I have for whatever pre-printed pictures that I already have, and then just have it printed in an 8.5 by 11, and then just cut it out when I need it. So it's not necessarily that I have journaling blocks that match the design of my pages, but they work for me because then it's all there when I'm scrapbooking and I don't have to come back later on, or I will forget a journaling for a specific page. So I'm matting this with the B side of one of the papers. I love the navy blue, and so this paper line is mostly nautical. It's supposed to be for like sea type of pictures, but I like the blues and the reds here, although there is some yellow in it, but it worked perfectly for these photos of a trip that my family and I took. We went to California last summer, and one of the things that we did was we went to the Independence Hall across the street from Knott's Berry Farm. Now this Independence Hall is a replica of the one that's in Boston. So since we can't go to Boston, we might as well try this one that's similar to it, right? So yeah, so it has a lot of very patriotic displays in there, and so I figured that this will work perfectly for that. Now I was thinking just adding those strips on the top and the bottom of the spread, but I felt like it needed something else. So I grabbed this border punch from Fiskars. It's been a long time since I've used this, so I'm glad that I was able to pull it out. And I'm punching some decorative edges on the border of this light blue paper. And then I'm going to add that to the tops and bottoms of the 2 pages. And again, this helps me maximize my papers, because when I'm cutting them into strips, I can extend them for the entire space. So nothing is adhered yet because I'm still kind of working on the placement of things. This is a very photo heavy layout, and I don't want to say that that's how I like it to be. Sometimes I also don't want too much photos in there, but I feel like when it comes to travel photos, events, the more pictures the better for me, because then it captures the story in more detail when I share a lot more photos. So yeah, I think I want to say that I'm more photo driven scrapbooker. Anyway, so I moved things around because I just wasn't liking how they're all so boxy. So I decided to cut the lighter paper, and they had some clouds in there. So I thought that I would add that. But I cut them, especially the one on the left, I cut that a little bit too short. And when I was adhering things, there was this little gap. And so I just cut the other side of it. And so in the pictures, you will see that there's a gap between those two, you know, that paper where there's an airplane. There's a little bit, I want to say like a 3/4 inch strip on the top of that. You can't see it right now in the video, but there is a gap there. And at first I was like, oh, there's a gap. It's going to show that I made a mistake. But really, at the end of the day, people are not, well, my family anyways, are not really going to focus on the design of this page, but more so on the photos and the story. So I'm just going to go with it. And I do like that there's no gap in there. It, I mean that there's no space in there, that I was able to fill in the gap, even though there's a distinct line between those two papers. It's all right. It's all good. So and now I'm adhering everything. I moved, so I took out those dotted papers that I was planning on using, took that out, and then added the papers with the clouds on both sides, both top sides of the page. And then I moved the 3x4 photo with the building itself, and then also the journaling block. I moved that to the top right of the double page layout. So if I were to base this from the original sketch, it's totally not it. It is not anywhere near the sketch, but I'm totally okay with that. So I think I flipped the camera here, and I'm sorry about that, but you can see that, can't remember what I was doing here. Oh, this is the right page. Now I get it. Okay, my camera is flipped, and so that's why I kind of felt a little bit lost there. But I'm going to adhere that paper, and that paper was cut perfectly, and so that there's not going to be any seams, but the left one would have seams. And I did cut the papers slightly shorter onto the sides and the top and the bottom, because I like that there's a little bit of frame with my layouts here. So again, I apologize that this is backwards or opposite, but you get the gist of it. And then I punched out some stars using the striped paper. The striped paper had different widths of the stripes, so I was able to cut out just solid colors from it, and I used a star punch from Creative Memories to do that. So I punched out 2 small stars and then 1 big star, and I thought the stars just worked perfectly for the event and the color scheme and the theme that I was going for. So here I'm going to adhere the, this is going to be the left side of the page, and you don't see me here, but I am going to adhere the borders here. And I think the mistake that I made was that I made the borders too close to the edge of the paper. If I would have moved it a little bit kind of towards the center of the page, that I wouldn't have the gap, but oh well. It all matched. It all worked out, so all good. And I actually managed to use up a lot of the papers from from the 3 pattern papers that I pulled out, so that's all good as well. So if you have any questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below. I know that in the scrapbooking world, there are very few people that do double page layouts in YouTube channels and in blogs. And so I hope that you like these kinds of shares. I know that there's still people out there that do a lot of double page layouts. I am one of them, and I don't think I'll ever stop doing double page layouts. I just feel like that's just my jam. So I'm gonna do it as often as I can. So I hope that you will you like those kinds of shares as well. I mean, I do single page layouts too, but when it comes to trips like this, events like this, I need to have space for all of my photos. So I think that's gonna do it with me. I do know that I will be, at first I contemplated that the title will just remain to be, or I will just use that travelogue little banner that's already printed on the pattern paper as my title, because this was just too busy for me. Had a lot of photos in there. But as I stepped away and looked at it a little bit more, I just really realized that I needed at least a title, just at least the name of where this space is. So right here you can see there is a space there, and so I needed to cover that up. I didn't like that there was that white gap. So I'm going to, I don't know why I inked the edges on top of that. I mean, I think that just made the seams even more pronounced, but I don't know what I was thinking while I was creating this. You know, sometimes you create and you just go with it and kind of not even think about it. Like your hands are working, but your brain's not really there. So there's that seam. And I was trying to like, oh, maybe I could just center it, but no, it doesn't look good for me. So thankfully, the other part of that paper, I still had, I didn't adhere to anything else, and so I was able to just cut right where I had cut the top of that, and then just seam it all together, and then it all worked out. So yes, the title, I was thinking of maybe just keeping it the travel log, and I did add some rhinestones to this as well, centering it on the stars. And then I'm kind of auditioning a few things here. I decided, yes, I will need some kind of title here for at least to name the place where we were. And at first I thought, well, maybe I can use some red chipboard letters from Jelly Bean Soup for it. But I just didn't want it to overpower. There's just very little blank space or empty space in this layout. And so I needed the title to be skinnier and smaller, where it doesn't fill up too much of the space already. So I went with the skinny kind of, they're yeah, I can't really talk. They're kind of transparent. So and they're from Heidi Swapp. So yeah, there's a tint of blue to it, but there's also a sheen to it. So, and I'm just going to spell Independence Hall here. I am going to be doctoring up a few of these letters because I've run out of some of the ones that I needed. I'm sorry my head is there. I want to make sure that it's straight. But guess what? It will never be straight. Even though I have a ruler there, I don't know, it just didn't work out for me. I don't do it as straight as I used to. I had a ruler. Well, it wasn't really a ruler. I think it was, but it was a very flimsy one, and I used it all the time. If you watch my very first, I would say 5 videos, you will see me use that kind of transparent ruler thingy that I was using, and that kept all my stuff straight. But now that I don't use it anymore, none of my letters are ever straight. But it's okay. I have to embrace imperfection because that's just how it's gonna be. So I'm just gonna finish this off, and I'm gonna be putting some music here, and then you'll see some close-up pictures of the layout and in all of its glory when it's all done. But if you have any questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys another day. Bye.